Hey guys, Stay-Patient here, and today I want to take you through the Gunzerker skill trees on Borderlands 2. Now I have 15 minutes to do so because of the PlayStation 4 share limitations, so let's dive right in. Now as you can see, I've reset all of my abilities. I'm going to start from scratch and basically talk through the pros and cons of all these skills and what you should be going for. The right hand skill tree is fairly useful in the very early stages of the game when you're low level, but as you start getting up around sort of level 20 or so, you can pretty much take all your skills out of that tree and start working on the middle tree and the left hand tree. Now these are Gunlust and Rampage, and basically Rampage is all about allowing you to Gunzerk as much as possible and as often as possible, and if you can Gunzerk all the time, then you've got the health regeneration and you've got the massive amount of extra damage, and you're going to be pretty much overpowered. I think the Gunzerker is one of the most powerful classes in the game. I've unequipped my class mod, I believe. In fact, no, I need to do that, but I will drop that down. So I've not got a class mod equipped, and that won't be interfering with the values, the points that I put in, just so that you can see what the default values of each of these skills will be when you put 5 points into them. Now out of these first two, because of course I will be concentrating on the Rampage tree to begin with, this skill here, Inconceivable, is actually glitched. Now the idea is it sometimes means that you don't use up ammo when you shoot, but if you're using it, if you've got the skill on and you're Gunzerking, then sometimes it can stop your gun from reloading because it stops the last bullet in the magazine from being used, and then this glitch kind of messes with your auto reload. So you'll be holding both triggers down, but one of your guns just won't reload, and sometimes you don't notice straight away. So when you do notice, you then have to reload yourself, which means your other gun will reload also, and it just causes a big problem. It's basically not worth having any points in this skill whatsoever because it just really messes with your Gunzerking ability. So ignore that because of the glitch. So I put 5 into the Filled to the Brim skill there for the extra ammo capacity and magazine size. Now the next 3 skills are going to be all about increasing your Gunzerking duration and cooldown. So we're going to put 5 into the duration there, and then 5 into the cooldown rate. Then we're going to put 5 points into Yippee-Ki-Yay. Now this means that every time you get a kill, it adds 3 seconds onto your Gunzerking ability. So if you've got a lot of enemies around, you can just keep Gunzerking almost endlessly. Now this next skill is absolutely excellent, and it's a little bit tricky to understand quite what it means, but basically with the full 5 points, every time you damage an enemy, if I come out of here just quickly, in the bottom left hand corner of the screen you'll see the icon that represents my Gunzerking ability. Now when you've just finished using Gunzerker, it will be empty and it will start filling up, and that's your cooldown. But every time you damage someone with this particular skill, it takes off 3 seconds from your next cooldown. Now the great thing about this is that this can be activated while you're Gunzerking. So when you're already Gunzerking and you're shooting enemies, every enemy you shoot, and of course this can only trigger every 3 seconds, but every time you shoot an enemy, it takes 3 seconds off your next cooldown. And because you've got this Yippee-Ki-Yay skill, every time you kill an enemy, you're extending the time that you're currently Gunzerking. So with those two coupled together, most of the time, if there's enough enemies around and you're damaging people often enough, you'll run out of your current Gunzerker ability, but as soon as you do, your next one will already be recharged and ready to go. It's absolutely brilliant, and quite often you can pretty much go through an entire area and just keep Gunzerker on pretty much infinitely. And then of course we've opened up this final skill, which involves holding both triggers down while you're Gunzerking and being able to increase your fire rate and reload speed while the triggers are held down. Now that's obviously very useful, especially against bosses. Now we're going to move on to the left hand tree, and in this tree we are going to concentrate first of all on the reloading increases your fire rate bonus on the left hand side, locked and loaded. 5 points into there. Now that actually works well in conjunction with some other skills which we'll talk about in a moment. Now out of these two, you've got one here that gives you extra damage when you swap weapons. The first bullet you fire gives you extra damage, but it's 40%, which is quite high, but that's only on the first round. But if you're using pistols, like you probably will be because of the excellent unkempt Herald guns, having 15% on every single shot fired, 15% extra damage for pistol shots across your whole magazine far outweighs 40% on one single bullet, so we're going to go with that. Now we're going to come down here, I'm going to choose this skill here. Now this is very useful, and it can actually lead to a new strategy, a new sort of technique of playing. What this does is every time you get a kill, all your unequipped guns, so in other words the guns that are in your equipped slots but aren't currently in your hands, they will be fully reloaded. So this means that you can basically be Gunzerking. You can have 2 guns out, get a kill with those 2 guns, then swap to your other 2, get a kill with them, and when you get a kill with them, it will reload the ones that you were using before because they're not in your hands anymore. So you don't actually have to manually reload your guns. You can just kill, swap, kill, swap, kill, swap, and you pretty much keep firing without having to reload at all. Now, of course, this does interrupt things like holding down your triggers, getting the faster fire rate and reload, but to be honest, if you're fighting against lots of smaller enemies, you're probably not going to be holding the trigger down like you would against someone like Terramorphous. But the great thing is as well, when you do swap weapons, because your unequipped weapons have just reloaded, as soon as you swap to those weapons, you will trigger this locked and loaded skill. Because you've just reloaded, it will increase your fire rate by 25%. So that's excellent. Now, the next skill is also a brilliant one. This money shot. Now, if you compare this to the 40% extra damage on the first bullet fired in a new gun when you swap to it, compare that to this, which is 400% damage, and that's in the final bullet in your magazine. Now, of course, if you are getting kills and then swapping, this won't be triggering as often, but this is great against bosses, and if you're against a large area of enemies and you're keeping the triggers held down, then obviously you don't want to be swapping guns in that kind of situation. The whole swapping guns technique is good against sort of single enemies or like a couple of enemies here and there. When you've got a big group, you can just hold both triggers down whilst you're Gunzerking. That will give you 88% extra fire rate, 25% extra reload speed, and because you're reloading constantly, you'll also get another 25% fire rate increase, and you will also be getting 400% extra damage with every final round in the magazine. Now, that's another good thing, you know, that's another reason why you don't want to go with Inconceivable, and also you don't want to go for 5 shots or 6, because both these skills either stop you using ammo or they add ammo into your magazine, which you don't want, because with money shot, you want to reach that final bullet in the magazine so you can do that 500% damage. And of course, as it says, you need to have a magazine size of 10 or more to get the full 400% extra. So that's why this skill, having the extra magazine size, can be useful, because some of the shotguns and guns like that, or revolvers maybe, have got lower magazine sizes, so they wouldn't get as much of a bonus from the money shot skill. But if you add 25% to that magazine size, then that's going to increase the magazine size closer to 10, and you're going to get a higher bonus, because anything under 10 basically scales that extra 400% damage down to whatever percentage it may be. So that's a brilliant skill. So basically, if you're holding both triggers down, you're constantly reloading, you're getting faster and faster fire rate, you're hitting those money shots over and over again, and you can just rip through enemies such as Terramorphous and the other big bosses. We're going to move down and just have a look around here. We've got this very important skill, down not out, which means you can Gunzerk while you're in fight for your life. Now that's an absolute necessity, really. That means that while you're Gunzerking, if you do go down, not only do you not lose the rest of your Gunzerking duration, but it makes it so much easier to get a second wind. I apologise for all the notifications coming up in the left hand side. Hopefully it's not blocking your view at all. So we're going to have a look now at these two. We've got one skill here which basically either increases your damage or your accuracy while you're Gunzerking, and it depends what kind of guns you're carrying. So 2 guns of the same type, such as 2 pistols, will give you extra damage. 2 different guns like an assault rifle and an SMG will give you extra bonus accuracy. Now the great thing about this skill is that it doesn't rely on you reloading or getting a kill or any specific circumstances like that. It's a constant bonus, and you always get a certain, you always get one bonus or the other, whether it's extra accuracy or damage. Both of them are very useful. This skill here is another fire rate one. Now we've already got one that increases our fire rate if we hold down our triggers, another one that increases it when we reload, and this one increases our fire rate when we get a kill. So I am actually going to put 5 into this one. And now I'm going to just talk about this keep it piping hot skill. Now this is basically extra gun, melee and grenade damage while you're waiting for Gunzerker to cool down. But the fact is, because we've got so many points in this tree, we're going to be Gunzerking so much that this actual skill is not really going to ever benefit us. As soon as we finish Gunzerking, we're going to be pretty much ready to go with our next one. So having that poxy little extra 25% just for a few seconds every now and again is totally not worthwhile. So to open up this final skill, we are going to put some points into this one that I mentioned before. This one gives us constant extra bonuses. Now, if you look at that, you get 6% extra damage, so that's 30% total at level 5. This is only 25%. So because we're going to be Gunzerking more often than not, having this extra 30% is much better for us. Now, I only need 3 points to be able to unlock this final skill. This one is sort of self-explanatory. Every time you kill an enemy, any of the damage from the bullet that you hit it with that wasn't needed, so any excess damage, you know, if they've only got a little bit of life left and you hit them with a bullet that does a lot of damage, all that extra damage that wasn't used is put into your next bullet towards the next enemy. So that can be helpful. It doesn't really change the way that you need to play or your strategy, but I would go for that. Now, I have plenty of points left. I've only put in enough points to be able to reach the bottom of each of these trees, but I'll go back through some of the ones that I didn't choose and talk about, you know, which ones would be beneficial once you have points left over. Now, this one is basically 2 grenades for the price of 1 while you're Gunzerking. That's very useful. It's only 1 point, so why not? Then you've got this one here, another single point one, which gives you 80% recoil reduction and 30% chance to improve your accuracy every time you hit an enemy with a bullet. So basically, it's a lot more accurate while you're Gunzerking, which can be obviously very helpful. I'm going to go back into this tree. I'm going to top up this one with the extra 2 points that's needed. I'm going to ignore this one here, the one that only benefits you when you're not Gunzerking, and also this one because it's only extra 40% damage for a single bullet each round. But I've got 11 points left, so I'm going to put 5 points into Quick Draw. Now this gives you extra critical hit damage and weapon swap speed, so that can work well if you're swapping weapons a lot to get the auto reloader. And also I'm going to put 5 points into the reload speed and melee damage. Now that just increases our reload speed, which is very helpful. I don't really use melee, but the reload's helpful. And we've got these 2 skills left, which are the 2 that I'm going to avoid. Both of these can cause a similar glitch while you're Gunzerking, so I'm going to basically just totally ignore them. And also they mess with the money shot. They stop the money shot from being active quite so often, like I mentioned before. So there you have it, guys. I have 1 point left over. I can put it anywhere I like, really. I will mention that if you have got a class mod that gives you extra bonuses, now I have one here that gives me extra locked and loaded, quick draw, fill to the brim, hard to kill, and insight. So if I was to equip that, I would have some of these skills will go straight up to 10, those 2 there, and this one. And also I have 5 towards these 2. Now, although I said to ignore this skill tree, obviously you can put some points in if these first 2 skills are increased by your class mod, like they can be by the legendary Berserker class mod for the Gunzerker. Then of course you could start by just putting 1 point into each one. I only have 1 point left. I could have left one of these other points back that I used at the end, maybe in the reload one. I put 1 in each. But you can easily get 6 points just by having that class mod and putting 1 point in. So, you know, go ahead with that depending on what class mod you are using. But if it's going to increase a skill that's further down on this brawn tree, then just ignore it because you're not going to want to put loads of points into here. It's not really very helpful. So I hope that's been helpful, guys. Try out the skill tree. Let me know what you think. It's great for bosses and normal enemies, so give it a try. I find it quite overpowered. Obviously, you need to be high level to have all the skills that I have equipped. But just play with the ones that I prioritized at the beginning. Go with the middle tree first and then the left-hand tree and see what you think. Any feedback, let me know if you've got any questions. And in the meantime, thanks a lot for all your support and your subscribes. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye for now.